My beloved brothers and sisters, relationships are a mercy from Allah, a means of comfort, love, and support. The Quran describes marriage as a bond of tranquility, affection, and mercy, and friendships as ties that help us walk together on the path of goodness. But sometimes, those same relationships can become sources of pain, fear, and spiritual decline. The truth is, not every connection we hold on to is one that Allah wants us to keep, and not every person who smiles at us has our best interests at heart. I once met a sister who, on the outside, appeared to have everything: a supportive family, a spouse, and a circle of friends. Yet in private, she was carrying wounds no one could see. Her days were filled with criticism, manipulation, and constant fear of displeasing those around her. She told me she had begun to doubt her own worth, even her relationship with Allah. This is the silent damage of a toxic relationship. It eats away at your soul without leaving visible scars. In Islam, we are taught that no relationship should strip away your dignity, compromise your faith, or pull you further from Allah. The Prophet said, "None of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself." If the relationship you are in is built on selfishness, control, or abuse, it is far from the standard Islam sets for us. The signs are often their constant belittling, isolation from loved ones, being pressured to disobey Allah, or feeling trapped in fear rather than nurtured in love. Our Deen calls us to stand against injustice, even if it comes from those closest to us. Protecting your heart, your mind, and your faith is not selfish, it is an obligation. And sometimes the hardest part is admitting that the person causing harm is someone you deeply care for. But know this: Allah never asks you to endure oppression in silence. He commands patience in trials, but never acceptance of wrongdoing that crushes the soul. Today, we will explore the signs of a toxic relationship from an Islamic perspective, not to breed hatred or sever ties without cause, but to help you recognize harm, set healthy boundaries, and seek relationships that lead you closer to Allah, not further away from Him. Because the right relationship will lift you, protect you, and remind you of Jannah, while the wrong one will drain you, weaken you, and cloud your path to Allah. Recognizing the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships in light of Islamic teachings is essential for protecting both our emotional well-being and our faith. Islam does not leave us without guidance in this matter. The Qur'an and Sunnah give us clear signs of what a righteous relationship should look like and warn us against harmful ones. A healthy relationship, in the eyes of Islam, is one that nurtures you, helps you grow in your connection with Allah, and is built upon mutual respect, mercy, and kindness. Whether it is between spouses, friends, family members, or even business partners, the principles remain the same: justice, honesty, compassion, and accountability. In contrast, an unhealthy or toxic relationship is one where these principles are consistently violated, where harm outweighs benefit, and the connection pushes you further away from righteousness rather than bringing you closer to it. The Quran describes the relationship between believing men and women as one of mutual guardianship. The believing men and believing women are allies of one another. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. Surah At-Tawbah 9:71. This verse sets the foundation. Healthy relationships are those in which both parties work together to encourage good and discourage harm, where advice is given with sincerity and love, and where both people feel safe to be their true selves while striving to please Allah. When this balance is disrupted, when one person begins to use their influence to harm, control, or manipulate the other, the relationship starts to depart from the framework that Islam teaches. Recognizing this difference often requires honest self-reflection. In a healthy relationship, disagreements may happen, but they are resolved with dignity and fairness. Communication is clear, boundaries are respected, and each person's dignity is preserved. In an unhealthy relationship, conflicts often turn into opportunities for humiliation, emotional manipulation, or withdrawal of affection as a form of control. Islam strongly discourages oppression of any kind, and the Prophet described oppression as **, darkness upon darkness on the day of judgment. This includes oppression within personal relationships, where one person uses emotional, physical, or spiritual pressure to dominate the other. Sometimes, cultural influences can blur the line between what is healthy and what is harmful. People may be told to endure, no matter what, confusing patience with silent acceptance of abuse. Yet, Islam is balanced. It commands us to be patient in trials, but it never requires us to remain in situations that destroy our dignity, faith, or safety. The Prophet himself stood against injustice, even if it came from within his own tribe. If we are in a relationship that constantly drains our energy, erodes our self-esteem, or causes us to compromise our obligations to Allah, it is a sign we must reassess its nature. Recognizing the difference also means looking beyond surface appearances. A toxic relationship is not always loud or visibly abusive. Sometimes it is quiet and subtle. It can manifest as constant criticism disguised as advice, emotional withdrawal as a way to punish, or being pressured to disobey Allah in order to keep the peace. A healthy relationship, on the other hand, will bring a sense of security, even during disagreements. It will make you feel valued, heard, and encouraged to be your best self in the sight of Allah. The more we study the examples of the Prophet and his companions, the clearer the distinction becomes. His relationships were built on gentleness, respect, and mutual understanding. Even in moments of correction, he never belittled or humiliated. Understanding this standard allows us to measure our own relationships against the scale of Islamic values, helping us identify when something is truly healthy or when it has crossed into the territory of harm. Understanding how toxic behavior affects the heart, faith, and overall well-being is crucial because the damage it causes often goes far deeper than what is visible. In Islam, the heart is the most important part of a person's being. The Prophet told us, **, indeed, there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound, and if it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Truly, it is the heart. Toxic relationships slowly chip away at this heart, not necessarily through physical harm alone, but by eroding a person's sense of self, worth, trust, and spiritual focus. When you are consistently surrounded by negativity, criticism, manipulation, or disrespect, it begins to poison your thoughts and emotions, leaving you spiritually drained and emotionally fragile. One of the most damaging effects of toxic behavior is that it can create doubt not only in yourself, but in your relationship with Allah. A person trapped in a harmful relationship may begin to feel unworthy of kindness, undeserving of love, or incapable of doing anything right. Over time, these feelings can lead to hopelessness and detachment from acts of worship. When your mind is constantly preoccupied with defending yourself, proving your worth, or avoiding conflict, the tranquility you once felt in prayer, Qur'an recitation, or reflection is replaced with anxiety and heaviness. Shaitan uses these moments of vulnerability to whisper further discouragement, making you feel isolated from Allah's mercy. Toxic behavior can also weaken a person's ability to fulfill their Islamic duties towards others. If a friend, spouse, or family member constantly belittles or controls you, your emotional energy is consumed by survival, not growth. This can lead to neglecting responsibilities, losing patience with others, and even withdrawing from healthy relationships because you are too drained to maintain them. Islam encourages believers to uplift one another, yet toxic dynamics do the opposite. They pull people down, foster resentment, and normalize unkindness. From a health perspective, the impact is no less serious. Chronic stress caused by toxic behavior can lead to physical symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, difficulty sleeping, and a weakened immune system. But what is more dangerous is how this constant stress affects your spiritual clarity. In moments of prolonged harm, the heart may become numb, accepting mistreatment as normal. This numbness is a sign of spiritual harm because it means the heart has stopped reacting to injustice the way it should. The Prophet described that the believer's heart should reject wrongdoing, even if only in the heart, as the weakest level of faith. Another subtle but profound effect is how toxic relationships can alter your understanding of love and mercy in Islam. When kindness is replaced with control, when encouragement is replaced with criticism, and when compassion is replaced with fear, a person may start to believe that this distorted version of love is acceptable or even deserved. This is dangerous because it shapes how you approach other relationships and how you teach the next generation about values. Children who grow up witnessing toxic behavior may internalize it, repeating the same harmful patterns in their own lives unless they are taught otherwise. Islam teaches that the believer is like a mirror to their brother or sister, reflecting what is good and helping to remove what is harmful. Toxic behavior is the opposite of this. It clouds the mirror, distorting the reflection until a person no longer sees themselves clearly. Recognizing this effect on the heart, faith, and well-being is the first step toward reclaiming emotional clarity, restoring a healthy connection with Allah, and surrounding yourself with people who bring you closer to Him rather than pulling you away. Identifying patterns of emotional, spiritual, or physical harm that Islam warns against requires both self-awareness and knowledge of the principles our faith teaches about human interaction. Islam places a great emphasis on kindness, fairness, and respect in all relationships, whether between spouses, friends, family members, or colleagues. The Prophet said, **, a Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hand other Muslims are safe. **, this hadith sets a clear standard. If someone's words or actions consistently cause harm, fear, or humiliation, it is a sign of a pattern that goes against the character of a believer. Emotional harm can take many shapes: constant criticism, belittling comments, shaming, guilt, tripping, or manipulation that makes a person feel they are always at fault. Over time, these behaviors strip away confidence and create a climate of fear instead of love. Spiritual harm is even more serious, because it not only affects your worldly well-being but your connection with Allah. This can happen when someone pressures you to commit sins, discourages you from acts of worship, mocks your religious practices, or creates an environment where you feel embarrassed to live by your Islamic values. It can also appear in more subtle ways. For example, when a person uses religion itself to manipulate or control, twisting verses or hadith to justify their wrongdoing. This is a dangerous pattern because it distorts the Deen and uses it as a tool for harm, which the Qur'an warns against repeatedly. Physical harm, while often easier to identify, can be accompanied by emotional and spiritual abuse. Islam is clear in its prohibition of physical oppression. The Prophet never struck a woman, a servant, or a child, and he condemned those who did. Any form of physical aggression, intimidation, or neglect of basic needs falls into the category of harm that Islam does not tolerate. Even raising a hand in threat without actual contact can leave deep emotional scars and is against the principles of mercy and safety that our faith teaches. Patterns are important to recognize because isolated mistakes can happen in any relationship. People can have bad days, moments of weakness, or misunderstandings. However, when harmful behavior becomes a repeated cycle with no genuine effort to change, it transforms into a toxic pattern. Islam encourages us to advise one another sincerely, to give opportunities for repentance and reform. but it also teaches us not to allow continuous oppression to become normalized. The Quran tells us, and do not incline toward those who do wrong, lest you be touched by the fire. Surah Hud 11, 113. This is a reminder that tolerating injustice without addressing it can also harm our own standing before Allah. Recognizing these patterns often begins with observing how you feel and behave over time in the relationship. Do you feel constantly anxious, fearful, or drained after interacting with the person? Do you find yourself hiding parts of your personality, beliefs, or dreams just to avoid conflict? Have you noticed a consistent imbalance where one person's needs, comfort, and authority always outweigh the other's rights and dignity? These are signals that the relationship is not aligned with the Islamic principles of mutual respect and justice. Learning to identify these signs is not about labeling people harshly, but about protecting the amana of your own heart and soul. Allah has entrusted you with your body, mind, and faith, and He does not require you to sacrifice them for the sake of pleasing someone who causes you harm. Islam provides the tools to spot unhealthy patterns early so that you can address them, seek counsel, and make decisions that preserve your dignity and keep you on a path that leads to His pleasure. Learning how to protect oneself while maintaining Islamic manners and values is a skill that every believer needs, especially when dealing with difficult or harmful relationships. Islam does not call us to be passive in the face of harm, nor does it teach us to respond with equal harm. Instead, it teaches us balance to stand firm in protecting our dignity, rights, and well-being, while upholding the beautiful character that reflects our faith. The Quran says, the servants of the Most Merciful are those who walk upon the earth easily, and when the ignorant address them harshly, they say words of peace. Surah Al-Furqan 25:63. This verse shows us that self-protection is not about aggression or revenge, but about strength wrapped in wisdom and dignity. One of the first steps in protecting yourself is recognizing your worth in the sight of Allah. A believer's value is not determined by how others treat them, but by their taqwa, their awareness of Allah and commitment to His commands. When you truly internalize that your worth comes from your Creator, it becomes easier to set healthy boundaries without guilt. Boundaries in Islam are not a sign of arrogance. They are a form of safeguarding the trust Allah has placed in you over your mind, body, and soul. If someone consistently disrespects you, manipulates you, or causes you harm, maintaining distance or limiting their influence over you can be an act of self-respect and obedience to Allah. Protecting oneself also requires wisdom in communication. The Prophet demonstrated how to address wrong with firmness, but without unnecessary hostility. He corrected mistakes, confronted injustice, and spoke the truth with clarity, yet always maintained his noble manners. This example teaches us that we can say no, we can express our discomfort, and we can refuse harmful behavior without stooping to the same negative behavior ourselves. In situations where direct confrontation may escalate harm, Islam allows us to seek help from trusted individuals, community leaders, or authorities who can mediate and provide support. Another important aspect is guarding your emotional and spiritual energy. If a relationship consistently pulls you into negativity, gossip, or actions displeasing to Allah, distancing yourself is not just a personal choice but a protective measure for your iman. The Prophet advised, a person is upon the religion of his close friend, so let one of you look at whom he befriends. This hadith is a reminder that those we keep close influence our thinking, habits, and ultimately our relationship with Allah. Choosing to spend less time with those who harm your faith and more time with those who inspire righteousness is part of self-protection. In protecting yourself, it is equally important to avoid becoming unjust in return. Even if someone has wronged you, Islam prohibits transgressing limits in your response. The Quran acknowledges the right to defend oneself but adds, but if you are patient, it is better for those who are patient. Surah An-Nahl 16, 126. This balance ensures that your actions remain within the boundaries of what pleases Allah, protecting you not only in this world but also in the hereafter. Seeking Allah's guidance through istikhara, making dua for strength, and remembering that He is the ultimate protector gives the believer inner peace in the process of guarding themselves. Sometimes protection means walking away, sometimes it means limiting access, and sometimes it means addressing the harm directly, but in all cases, it is done with the intention of preserving one's faith, dignity, and emotional health while keeping the heart free from hatred or the desire for revenge. Trusting Allah in making difficult decisions to seek peace and righteousness is one of the greatest tests of a believer's heart. There are moments when we stand at a crossroads, unsure which path to take. Our minds may be clouded by fear of the unknown, emotional attachments, or worries about what others will say. Yet, Islam teaches us that the one who relies upon Allah will never be left without guidance. The Quran assures us, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Surah At-Talaq 65, 3. This reliance is not just a feeling, it is an active surrender, a conscious decision to put our trust in the one who knows what we do not and sees what we cannot. When a relationship becomes harmful, when love turns into pain, or when loyalty begins to feel like a chain, the heart often hesitates to let go because it fears loss. But the believer's heart knows that nothing is truly lost if it is given up for the sake of Allah. Every sacrifice made for Him is replaced with something better, maybe not immediately, but in ways that heal and uplift the soul. Trusting Allah means believing that He will replace your loss with something that brings you closer to Him, even if it comes in a form you did not expect. One of the most powerful ways to seek clarity in such moments is through istikhara, the prayer of seeking guidance. It is not merely a ritual but a conversation with Allah where you admit your weakness, acknowledge your limited knowledge, and ask Him to guide you toward what is best for your dunya and akhirah. It is a way of saying, "O Allah, I am blind to the future, but you see it all. I do not know what is in their heart, but you know it fully. Choose for me what will bring me peace, even if I do not understand it now." Trust in Allah also means trusting His timing. Sometimes the answer is not immediate. You might pray for relief, and the situation may remain the same for a while. This delay is not neglect, it is preparation. Allah may be strengthening you, teaching you patience, or opening unseen doors that will only make sense later. The believer learns to be content with the waiting, knowing that Allah's plan is unfolding with perfection, even in silence. Making difficult decisions also requires remembering that peace in Islam is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of righteousness. A relationship may appear calm on the surface, but if it is built on lies, control, or disobedience to Allah, that is not true peace. True peace comes when the soul feels safe, the heart is free from constant fear, and one's connection with Allah is not being compromised. If a relationship demands that you sacrifice your obedience to Allah for its survival, it is a relationship that must be reconsidered. The stories in the Quran show us countless examples of believers who trusted Allah in moments of deep uncertainty. Prophet Ibrahim left his homeland and even his family's way of life because his loyalty to Allah was greater than his fear of loneliness. Prophet Musa walked toward the Red Sea with no visible escape, trusting Allah to open a path. Maryam endured isolation and the weight of people's accusations, yet she remained steadfast, knowing that Allah's promise is always fulfilled. Each of them chose peace and righteousness over temporary comfort, and Allah honored them with outcomes far beyond their imagination. When you trust Allah in your decisions, you